The first stop, you get everybody to believe in you and trust the process. Second stop, you really like drive it home and solidify that trust. Third stop, you can do something weird. Fourth stop is your recovery stop in case the weird thing doesn't work.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies, because the best part of any trip is what you eat. I'm Brent Peterson, and this week we're sampling the best pizza in Naples, New York, Chicago, and Campania. We'll be exploring something called the pizza effect in Italy, and we're getting tons and tons of pizza recommendations in Chicago. There's also something called Eat Free Pizza, and how to pick the best slice of pizza from the pie. Plus, we get on the bus for an ever-changing pizza tour and pizza in the backyard. And I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Anja von Bremzen is an award-winning writer and the author of National Dish, Around the World in Search of Food, History, and the Meaning of Home. She tells me about pizza in Naples and how pizza had to become famous in the States before it was widely accepted in Italy. Well, let's talk a little bit about a couple of the national dishes from your book. And I'd like to start in Naples because it's one of my favorite cities. My girlfriend's family is originally from outside of Naples, so we love Naples. And of course, you choose for Italy's national dish pizza. And you talk about something called the pizza effect. What is the pizza effect?
Well, let's just backtrack a little bit and say something that I think most people don't realize, that pizza is a purely Neapolitan food. And it's a product of a particular urban condition, which is overcrowding. 19th century Naples was 10 times urban density of Victorian London. Imagine how crowded that is. So pizza was a salvation, a street food that costs only a soldo, like a cent, and that a lot of people could afford. And it would provide, a decent meal. Outside of Naples, pizza is completely not known. And if it is known, it's really scorned. Like Carlo Collodi, the creator of Pinocchio, he wrote a book for children about a little boy's voyage across Italy. And then he said, do you know what pizza is? It's complicated filth, just like totally disparaging. So what happens with pizza is, after the unification of Italy, 1860s, lots of poverty, lots of chaos, a lot of folk from southern Italy specifically leave. It is, in fact, the largest, one of the largest recorded out-migrations in human history from Italy to the Americas. And they started making Italian food, pizza, pasta, pizzeria. So pizza kind of takes off here before, arguably, it becomes known outside of Naples in Italy. And it doesn't only take off, it becomes kind of this sought-after thing and very famous. And then it is, the idea of pizza as a national Italian food and is something fabulous, goes back to Naples. And this is the pizza effect. Pizza effect was the term coined by a Hindu anthropologist, actually in relationship to yoga. Because apparently yoga in India was totally not a big deal, but it became popular in the States and elsewhere. And then it was re-imported to India as something that's imbued with new meaning and new status and demanding new respect. And this is what happens to pizza in Naples. This is a pizza effect. So it's a scorned dish, not understood until well into the 20th century outside Naples. Then it becomes, huge in the Americas. And then it comes back as a kind of hero.
As I was reading this chapter, I'm going through it, and I'm in the back of my head, I'm thinking, all right, she's going to mention sorbillos. I know she's going to mention it. I hope she likes sorbillos because I love sorbillos. And you got to Sorbillo's and you did. You liked it. So I felt a sense of relief because I was like, I'm hoping, I hope she doesn't rip Sorbillo's. It's one of my favorite places.
The pizza there is amazing. Yeah, Sorbillo is like one of the best known pizzeria in Naples, and it has branches in New York and somewhere else in Milan. The main pizza, my main protagonist is like a rival pizzaiolo, but they're all friends, called Enzo Coccia of Pizzeria La Notizia. And Sorbillo is more populist. The guy, I first wrote about him, Gino Sorbillo, the owner, when he was like 18. That was 25 years ago. And it's a dynasty of pizzaiolo. Even the aunt, even women pizzaiola. But Sorbillo is an interesting figure because of what I was saying before, because pizza was not a respected food. It didn't have much status. And the whole figure of the pizzaiolo as a craftsperson got no respect. They were just like, as one of them, I think Sorbillo tells me, we were like the lowest rung of the artisans, like no respect, no money. But then pizza becomes because of the pizza effect, pizza becomes extremely popular. All these foreigners want it. And Sorbillo, because he's very handsome and charismatic, he becomes like really the Italy and the world's first true celebrity pizzaiolo. Like he's on TV all the time, so I kind of have a funny scene of me trying to interview him, and he's like on the phone and giving interviews to radios and like being the celebrity and being like very operatic and histrionic about his own celebrity. It's, he's kind of a slightly comical character, but an important character, important to understand what pizza has come to mean for Naples, because the lines, all these pizzerias used to be in very poor, very dangerous neighborhoods, like Spaccanapole, the center of Naples. You would, literally get mugged. There's always drive-by purse snatchers, the scripatori. And then in part, it was pizza that turned this completely gentrified the neighborhood and turned it into like this epicenter of foodie tourism. And these places have just lines, that last out the door, for 2 hours.
So Sorbillo's is world famous. And like you said, they've got a branch in New York, and other places as well. Do you have an under the radar pizza place in Naples that you really love and that you could maybe share with our audience?
Well, the main place where I do most of my writing is called La Notizia, and it's in Vomero. And Enzo Coccia, I say if Sorbillo is a Cristiano Ronaldo of the pizza scene, like the celebrity, international celebrity, then Enzo Coccia is more of an intellectual. He does so much with science and he writes books. He's also incredibly famous. But because it's in Vomero, a residential district, it's not as mobbed as Sorbillo. And he has actually 3 pizzeria on the same street, doing very different things. La Notizia, and the pizza is just out of this world.
If you're enjoying Destination Eat Drink, take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast app. It just takes a moment, and it helps other foodie travelers just like you find the show. Kathy McCabe is an award-winning travel journalist and the host and creator of Dream of Italy and her new show, Dream of Europe, on PBS. Kathy tells me about the world-famous Franco Pepe and his unique take on pizza margarita. You also went to Caserta, which is outside of Naples. I lived in Rhode Island for many years, and there's actually in the Federal Hill neighborhood, which is the Little Italy of Providence, there is a place called Caserta's, a little pizza joint, and they've got excellent pizza. It's not Neapolitan style, though. It's closer to Sicilian style with, thick, spongy crust. But anyway, Caserta, you were enjoying pizza in Caserta with the famous chef Franco Pepe. This guy is a rock star when it comes to pizza.
Have you have heard of him before, haven't you?
Yeah. And then I looked him up and I'm like, look at all these accolades that he's got. I'd heard of him, and then I looked him up.
He just last week, I think, is best pizza chef in the world. Maybe it's the 3rd time he won. Oh, he's amazing. Incredible. And the pizza, I've done Neapolitan pizza we did on the first season. I'm sure I've eaten my share of pizza in Italy. And so you're always like, oh, is this really the best? The dough. It really comes back to the dough. It is, I think the most striking thing about it is after you eat it, you could eat a lot of it. You're not bloated. You don't feel overly full.
Yes, yes.
It's a very, satisfying, experience. And then he does, like pizza margarita, but he does his own twist where he melts the cheese first and then he puts almost this puree of tomatoes and basil on top of it.
Oh.
So it does it outside of the oven.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he does a fig pizza with conchata romano, this ancient Roman cheese on it. And oh my God, figs, my God. It was so good. So I highly recommend if you're down in Campania to go to Pepe and Grani is the name of it. You can get reservations online. People line up every night. It's worth a little bit of a trip.
You know, it reminds me of the first time we went to Naples and we went to Gino Sorbillo's. And we got a pizza, and everyone orders like a full pizza for themselves. And Karen and I were talking. We're like, "There's no way we're going to be able to finish a whole pizza." But she wanted. I forget which. You know, one of us wanted the margarita, one of us wanted a different one. So we got 2 pizzas, right? And we ended up eating the whole thing, each of us. And like you said, you don't feel bloated. And I was told it's because of, the long fermentation process that the dough goes through. So you don't have all of that gas in your stomach to make you feel like, you got to lay down for a week and a half just to digest this thing.
It's partly that. And then for Franco Pepe, it's partly the like ancient sort of flour that he uses. It really is quite a science.
Jonathan Porter from Chicago Pizza Tours has been taking people to try all kinds of different pizza around Chicago for over 15 years. He talks about the real Chicago-style pizza, and guess what? It's not deep dish. The thing that always strikes me as someone who moved away from Chicago when I was fairly young, I moved to the East Coast. I was constantly defending Chicago-style pizza. And the thing that I always brought up was that deep dish pizza isn't the real Chicago-style pizza in the fact that most Chicagoans eat is tavern-style pizza. This was the pizza that I grew up on. This was the pizza that my family would eat when we would go out on Friday nights. And Jon Stewart had no mention of that, and 99% of the population outside of Chicago has no idea about tavern-style pizza. And this is why I fly the flag of tavern-style pizza, and I'm happy that you also fly the flag of tavern-style pizza, which is for people who don't know, which is a thin crust pizza cut with a cross cut rather than, the triangular pie-shaped cut.
I'm doing my best here. 14 years of tours, and when people book, they obviously have their mind set on that they're coming to Chicago, they're going to try deep dish. But within the first minute of the tour, we really do explain to them is that while Chicago is known as the deep dish capital of the world, and that's true, it's where it was invented, we do it the best. For the most part, the locals really only eat it on special occasion or when people from out of town are visiting us.
Exactly.
The overwhelming majority is that pizza that you just described. And to be honest, the pandemic sort of, it's in a renaissance of tavern style pizza. When we were first running our tours, one of the things, and I know we talked about this last time, was, Flo and Santos opened up in 2010 doing tavern style pizza and other Polish foods. To me, that was really one of the newer of the tavern style pizzas. All those tavern style places that we know about, that we grew up with, they've been around 40, 50, 60 more years, right? So Flo and Santos was really one of the first to open doing that style of pizza in the 21st century. And since the pandemic, there's been a handful of others that are now gravitating towards that and taking it up a level as far as like the thinness and the crispiness of it. And they're doing some great work. Do you want me to just mention a few, just so your listeners can?
Yeah,
if they're
definitely.
Coming,
And so that I can write them down for my next trip to Chicago too.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So some of the newer ones and these are strictly after the pandemic started. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a place called Kim's Uncle Pizza in Westmont, Illinois. So a suburb about 15, 20 miles west of Chicago. It's three people, a husband and wife, and their business partner, and they're younger. Like I'm going to say early to mid 30s or something maybe, and they started out with something that was called Eat Free Pizza during the pandemic, where they were just making pizza in their apartment, and you would almost like jump in like a lottery or something like that. And if you were picked, you could drive up to the alley, pick up a free pizza. That was it. So it started out as like a social media thing. And that sort of, spiraled into what was then became, I don't want to get this wrong. It's pizza fried chicken ice cream was the name of the business. And
so it's not one thing. It's not one thing all mixed together. It's these are their specialties. I got you. Okay, good.
So some people believe in a name should tell you exactly what they do, and that hit the mark on that one for sure. But if you remember Kimski, which is was down at 31st and Morgan in Bridgeport, they weren't operating during the pandemic. They were taking a break, and these guys struck up a partnership with Ed Mazursky from Mars Brewing and of Kimski, and they were able to kind of run their pizza joint out of that space for a while. And that went on for, I think, a couple of years. And they did other styles, too, in addition to the Tavern Style. But Tavern Style was really the one that shined for everybody. And then when that kind of, that program, that contract, when it was all up, they found a space out in Westmont with an old Folds oven that, is that carousel style, almost like a Ferris wheel on the inside. And they're taking these thin crust doughs. They're typically crispier on the outside, and as you work your way towards the middle, they tend to be a little bit softer and foldable. But what they're doing, and a lot of other places are now doing, is Pat's on Lincoln for years has been taking their dough and rolling it out with a sheeter and hitting it with a docker, which pokes holes in that dough, and then laying it on parchment paper in the refrigerator for like 3, 4, maybe even 5 days. And they call it the curing process, essentially letting it get pretty stale. So a lot of these newer ones are taking that curing process to the next level. And it is unbelievably thin and unbelievably crispy. Kim's Uncle in Westmont, good luck getting there. It's and not just getting it, but like getting an order in there. One oven, limited seating, I think 10 total. You call Tuesday at 4:00 on the dot. You hope that they can give you a time and to pick it up and everything. So they're doing some great work. They got a lot of buzz going about them. Another one I would talk about too would be the new one that's getting a lot of buzz is it's called Pizza Mata. And Michelin star type restaurant was Giant in Logan Square. And these are the chefs from Pizza Mata that decided to go ahead and make their take on a tavern style pizza. And again, it's that curing process that makes it so paper thin and crispy. Middlebrow Bungalow is another one that's been doing that too. They're a brewery that makes different breads. They've got this nice electric oven. And again, the super thin, curing that pizza. It's really taken tavern style to a whole new level. I also did really like this other place that was in the West Loop, but unfortunately, it closed recently. And you never know with these; they might resurface. But it was a business called Paper Thin Pizza, and again, it was all in the name there. It was so extraordinarily thin. I like to joke with my wife, it's like Bible paper, vellum or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you've got the classics too, right? If you go up and down Archer Avenue on the south side, Obie's is one of the first ones that you hit up right away. Vito and Nick's, I'm sure we talked about it last time.
Yes.
If you fly into Chicago and you land at Midway, it is your duty to go right to Vito and Nick's. It's not far. Bring cash. They don't accept credit cards. They celebrated their 100th year in business in 2020 during the pandemic, and Rose George still owns the place, still goes there several days a week. I'm going to see her next week, and we are starting out meeting at Vito and Nick's for that one. So I'm really excited. It's been years, and I brought little one-offs here and there, but like it's going to be a tour that starts there. So I'm super excited. If you happen to fly into O'Hare, I'm going to send you to Pizza Boy. That's going to be your duty as well. And Carlo Bertoli, he was my local pizza guy in the town that I live in Oak Park. And he broke off during the pandemic and started his own. It was called Pizza Boy because everybody had always known him his whole life growing up in the pizzeria. They're like, it's the Pizza Boy, you know. He does several styles there. He does Detroit style. He does a New York style. He does the tavern style is what I know him for. And that is my go-to day in and day out. But again, you land at O'Hare, your first order of business, go over to Edison Park, not far from O'Hare, and see my guy, Carlo.
Perfect. I love this idea of curing the pizza dough so that you get the crispiness throughout the pizza. Like you said, in typical tavern style pizza, when you get to the middle, you've got very soft dough and, fold it and then pop it in your mouth. But And it's great. It's great. But always me and my brothers, when we would go out for pizza as kids, the ones we would fight over would be the ones on the edge, the crispy ones. And it sounds like with this curing process, you get a whole pizza of crispy ones.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a little torn on it too, because I did like the foldable ones on the inside too. So you just got to get them all. So, but you're absolutely right. The first slices that you're going to fight over are those outer edges that are, and especially those little, because when a circular pizza is cut into squares, there are those odd shaped pieces on the end, right? And those are the crispiest of them all.
The little triangles.
Those 4 little triangles go first, and then from there you work your way in. So if you think about like just a thin crust pizza and you cut it like a New York style pizza and you picked it up, the end where your fingers would be much crispier, and as you get to the tip, it would sag. And that is what you would have in a normal if you cut it that way. But when you cut them into those squares, you have just pieces that would be towards the middle there that are those soft foldable pieces. So yeah.
There's lots more food and travel at destinationeatdrink.com. I just published a brand new food and travel guide to Ravenna, an amazing medieval city in Italy. But there's also great food there, including a Little Hat pasta, a unique flatbread, and a seafood festival. Read a free excerpt at destinationeatdrink.com/blog or download your ebook at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. I also posted a new video about Antibes in France. It's home to an incredible Picasso museum, a terrific outdoor market, and bread with holes cut in it. You can see that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. Scott Wiener is the founder of Scott's Pizza Tours, a company taking people around New York for the city's best pizza. He tells me about his pizza bus. At Scott's Pizza Tours, you do a Sunday New York City pizza bus. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the bus is super fun. That's the tour that we run every Sunday, only on Sundays. It's open to the public, so anybody can buy a ticket. We run it on a big yellow school bus, so it's like a field trip. And we'll take up to 32 people, and every Sunday I change where we go. And I run every single one of those.
Oh, wow.
And I decide where we're going to go based on the group. So, as you come in, if you're a group of 6 people, and maybe you're in from Long Island, or maybe you're in from Texas or Portugal, who knows? I'll just ask you a few questions, try to get to know you, try to figure out, what's your scoop? You live in New York, you're visiting for a week, you've been here 10 days already. How many pizzerias have you been to? None? 12? Whatever. And then I figure out, okay, for today, here's what I think we need to do. And I factor in, people come back for repeat tours. So I always factor in, okay, well, where did we go last time? Oh, that was 10 years ago? Okay, things changed over there. Maybe we'll revisit today. Or maybe somebody says, oh, my cousin here doesn't like pizza, and I really want her to understand why I love it. And then that factors into the mission. So super fun, but we change it every week. And we go to 4 places that each represent a different style. So we're never making it the battle of who does the New York slice better. It's more like understand what Sicilian pizza is. Let's understand what bar pizza is. Let's understand what Neapolitan is. And at the end of the tour, people aren't arguing over which one was better. They're kind of debating the merits and what they like from each and what would be their Frankenstein pizza. Oh, that style of sauce with that cheese. And that's the best part.
That's kind of amazing, Scott. I don't know. You have to imagine, I have spoken to a lot of places that do tours, that do food tours on this podcast. I've been doing it for over 5 years now. And I don't know that other than constructing a private tour, that I've heard of a tour that changes so much and is specifically done with the people who are attending it in mind. That is super cool and, I got to say, quite unique.
Well, we haven't been doing that from day one. It used to be that if I didn't have a tour planned a week in advance, I couldn't sleep. But it's just because of time and experience. That's how we're able to do it. In fact, when we do private tours, I have a team of other tour guides, and we all do the private tours that same way. We'll have a plan in mind, but we never tell people where we're going to go because we like to change it as we go. And sometimes if it's a small enough group, if it's 12 people, I don't have to make any plan. I can really wing it based on the moment. And it's not something I recommend for tour operators because it's tough. It requires just tons and tons of training. And that's why for me, I feel comfortable with it because I've been doing this professionally for, at this point, it's been 16 years. So I have relationships with pizzerias where it's not even just necessarily me calling and saying, can we come over in a half hour? Sometimes it's somebody calling me that morning and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this funky, weird thing at this funky, weird location. If you want to stop by and bring the crew, I think you'd like it. And then we just, that changes things. I mean, this past Sunday, I had somebody who was on the tour and they said, yeah, you took us to someone's backyard. And I'm like, I remember that was 2011. We only went there 3 times, and it's a guy I met who built an oven in his backyard, made amazing sourdough pizza, and he was getting ready to open a restaurant, but he was practicing. And we went there as like the 3rd stop, out of 4 stops, the first stop, you get everybody to believe in you and trust the process. Second stop, you really like drive it home and solidify that trust. 3rd stop, you can do something weird. 4th stop is your recovery stop in case the weird thing doesn't work. And that's why like that 3rd stop that day, I remember we went to this guy's house. We walked into his backyard. People were concerned,
right? Because
they were like, where are you taking us? But I'm telling you, it's the most memorable thing. And now that guy has opened a restaurant. It just got an amazing write-up in the New York Times. And it's at the moment, it feels like a weird thing, but it's kind of what I want people to experience. I don't want people to experience total comfort. It's not a fancy coach bus. It's not a list that I send you in advance of where we're going to go. I don't tell you what borough we're going to go to. You can't sign up for the Brooklyn bus tour. You can't sign up to go to Queen. I want you to, when I say we're going to Staten Island, I want you to be like, where even is that? And then at the end of the tour, you've got a real, genuine experience and not just visiting some restaurants that you could go to with anybody.
Of course, you're never going to get that experience otherwise.
Yeah. And that's why like our guides, we're not just about ushering people to places. We're really there to explain what's happening. And so sometimes we'll go to a restaurant. Like last night, I took a group on a private tour to a restaurant that I've never taken a group to. And I've been there a few times, sussed it out, understood what I wanted to understand. And then during the tour, I'm learning a whole lot more. And it's probably my favorite type of stop is the one that's a little funky.
I love your phrase, funky weird. And as you're telling me that backyard story, I hope you'll indulge me for a moment and let me share one of my favorite backyard stories. Back in the day when we lived in Rhode Island, a friend of mine, Nick, who's actually a New York firefighter, he was getting ready to open a restaurant in Rhode Island, a pizza restaurant, and he had a portable brick oven pizza that he made, but he didn't have space. He didn't have a physical brick and mortar space yet. So what he used to do is drive around the beach area of southern Rhode Island with this brick oven pizza on the trailer. He would tweet out where he was going to be, and he'd fire it up, and people would just show up. And he would start making pies and just handing them out. And someone would come out of a nearby house with a bottle of wine and pass it around. And this is how I got to know him before he finally got to open his brick and mortar place, which is sadly closed now. But I love this unique idea of going into somebody's backyard because, like I said, you're not going to find that anywhere else. I mean, you can't Google that. You can't look on Yelp. You can't find it anywhere on TripAdvisor. This is just something you got to know the guy. And luckily, I'm talking to the guy.
Yeah, and it's I love that whole driving around thing. It's like so beautiful because it really reminds you that not everything can be fully experienced by either looking on Instagram picture or even by visiting a place once. It's and that's the value of tour guides and of tour programs, where it's somebody who's like really deeply invested in this thing. They're so absorbed with it. It's a big part of their life that's why that's a valued, trusted source for information. Because you're right, you can't Google, oh, when can I go to that weird pizza thing in the backyard? It's not even open in the public. It's just a thing that you have to have your ear to the right vibration.
Okay, there you go. Gotta do the pizza bus next time I'm in New York. You can book a tour with Scott at scottspizzatours.com. Anya is at Von Bremzen on Instagram. Kathy McCabe is at dreamofitaly.com and dreamofeurope.com. And Jonathan Porter is chicagopizzatours.com. There's also links to all my guests in the show notes. Next week, heart-shaped waffles, open-faced shrimp sandwiches, and lots of coffee in Oslo, Norway. Subscribe to Destination Eat Drink so you don't miss that. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.